Very good morning to all of you. I, Dr. Ankita Ramteke, on behalf of Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics, VSPM's Dental College and Research Center, Nagpur, welcome you all to the Healing Fest 2020. We would be having webinars daily for the entire month of July, 1 hour, 1 month. Today, on the 21st day, we are privileged to have a two dynamic, energetic, great orator personality with us, Dr. ChetanaMakade ma'am and Dr. Mohit Gunwal sir. As we all know, we are going through pandemic like COVID, where concept of self-dependency is practiced and appreciated. So today's lecture by Dr. ChetanaMakade ma'am on herbal endodontics highlights the rich herbal cultural heritage of our country, and lecture by Dr. Mohit sir on biological restoration, promoting the use of tooth tissue for restorative purpose. We welcome you, ma'am and sir. We are also honored to have an eminent personality in the field of endodontics, Dr. Manjusha Varadpande ma'am, as the moderator for today's scientific session. We welcome you, ma'am. A warm welcome to all the participants of live session on our Facebook page, Endocons VSPM Nagpur. It's kind request to all to put your queries on the Facebook page. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce our moderator for today's session, Dr. Manjusha Varadpande ma'am. Ma'am has completed her bachelor and master's in conservative dentistry and endodontics from Government Dental College and Hospital Nagpur. She's working as the head of the department, postgraduate guide, professor at the Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics in Government Dental College and Hospital Nagpur. She has published many papers in national and international journals and guided many undergraduate and postgraduate students. She is the president of Association of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontic Vidarbha branch. One of the best things about her that she is one of the most popular mentor and amazing person in the field of the dentistry. Now I request Dr. Manjusha Varadpande ma'am to introduce our first speaker for today's session, Dr. ChetanaMakade ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ankita. Good morning, all. At the outset, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Pratima Shenoy and her entire team for inviting me to be a moderator for this wonderful 1 month scientific fest. So thank you, Pratima and her team. It is indeed a proud moment for me to introduce my own student as a speaker for today's E-Link Fest 2020, which is organized by VSPM Nagpur, none other than my own student, Dr. ChetanaMakade. Currently working as Associate Professor and Guide at VSPM DCRC Nagpur. She is pursuing PhD from MUHS Nashik. She has completed MDS from GDCH Nagpur in 2004. She has 3 patents to her credit, and she has won prizes for inclusive innovations at Avishkar 2015 and 2018. She has 30 publications in PubMed indexed national and international journals. She has conducted many workshops, delivered scientific presentations at international, national, and state conferences. She is also a reviewer for many reputed journals. My researcher, Chetna, is also working on collaborative research work with the engineering field. She is keen on promoting healthy lifestyle practices and production of organic products. Overall, a multifaceted personality, Dr. ChetanaMakade. Just a brief introduction to start her topic. I would like to express my views. We all know India is the heart of Ayurveda. The Indian holy books, Vedas, mention treatment with plants and healing with medicinal plants, and is as old as mankind itself. The healing properties of medicinal plants were conveyed to the successive generations, then upgraded and discovered new ones, and it is still going on. Herbal medicine or phytomedicine is still considered as alternative medicine. A wide variety of synthetic antimicrobials have been used over the years in endodontic therapy, but because of developing increased antibiotic resistance to these antimicrobial agents and also its toxicity and harmful side effects of few of agents, there is a need for alternative agents which are affordable, non-toxic, and effective also. So the speaker's presentation will be an insight to the application of herbs in endodontics. It's going to be an evidence-based research, and also the presentation would add the identification and exploration of the rich heritage of nature. Mother Earth is full of healing herbs of incomparable worth. So, may I invite Dr. ChetanaMakade to proceed with her presentation. I wish her a very good luck and she may start her presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Varat Pandey Madam, for an lovely and blissful introduction for me. And really, it's a blessing for the first kind of webinar. Madam has already told a lot, and it has made my job easy to introduce this topic of herbal endodontics. So this at Crossroads, why it has Crossroads, we'll speak at the end of the lecture. Just a minute, madam. So it's a proud privilege for me to be on both the sides, and thank to my guide and mentor, Dr. Pratima Shenoy, for believing me and making me a part of this galaxy of endostars. So coming to directly to the topic, this fest is E-Link Fest, that is linking all ourselves with the E-Link. Similarly, this presentation deals ourselves linking with the nature. We've been all endodontists, how we can correlate ourselves with the nature, and whatever the literature is available and how we can implement in our clinical practice of endodontics. So it is just a small link. As you know, nothing is constant. I remember when I joined my postgraduate course, we were struggling with all hand rotary hand instruments, and that was the first time we could get a glance of endomotor, and then we started of seeing and doing rotary instrumentation. But now the things has changed a lot. Not only we can see the era before COVID, how we used to practice, and we have accepted to live with this challenging situation, and we have adapted our clinical protocols accordingly. So change is the law of universe. This is a very true, and it's been there since the inception of this universe. So to begin, I would like to mention that in this presentation, I would be dealing with the common names of the herbs to make it simple. And with the time constraints, it's very difficult for me to compile all the data. So if anybody's research is missing in this context, so I would like to feel sorry for that. And the presentation is basically based on the few of the meta-analysis and literature, some in vitro, in vivo trials, and some are personal experiences of using herbs in endodontic practice. As we all know, for successful endodontics, we need complete eradication of microflora, maintenance of coronal and apical seal of root canal treatment is of utmost importance, and that will help in recontamination plus preserving the strength of remaining tooth structure. That will definitely help us in achieving successful endodontics. Madam has given a very elaborative idea of Ayurveda and India that is been highlighted, and it is a rich tradition, and we are being blessed as we are having various types of climatic conditions, and hence we are having excellent source of tropical medicines which are believed to be having high medicinal values all over the globe. So it is our duty to study them, explore them, and bring it in for the benefit of society. So herbal medicine, according to, if we see a definition, it is a plant-derived material or preparation that contains raw or processed ingredients from one or more plants with therapeutic values. Even who has given a definition of a curative plant extract or a preparation containing one or more material or processed plant ingredients. This is very useful. I'll correlate what is the significance of this. So coming to the classification, we all basically, when we think of endodontics and use of herbs, we basically think of antimicrobial action, anti-inflammatory action. But apart from this, there are many things which herbs provide us. That is sedative, anxiolytic, antioxidant, and many more. So these are the types of the agents that are usually used. And coming to the extracts, the herbal extracts, basically we have from leaves, flowers, stem, bark, and roots. And the variation of the important or principal active ingredients, it will differ of the same plant. Flower will have different properties, its flower will have different properties, its stem will have different properties. So it is of utmost important to understand what are the constituents of that particular part of the plant. Then coming to the forms of herbal medicine, we are basically having oil-based formulations, aqueous gels, ointments. So among all, nowadays, mostly aqueous-based and gel are gaining more popularity. The basic highlight of this presentation is not a war between chemical and herbal. It will be a synergistic relation, how we can serve better to the society in providing herbal in endodontic treatment. So this is the picture which we have made. In x-axis, you can see the different types of procedures like cleaning, disinfection, retreatments, regenerations, vital pulse therapy, and the other axis shows the different types of chemicals which we are using, and in between we are trying to incorporate few of the herbs. So first of all, we'll see for the cleaning and disinfection. We all know irrigants play a quite important role with broad antimicrobial spectrum, and most importantly to dissolve necrotic pulp tissue remnants. And of all these properties, the most important is it should be systemically non-toxic. So now we have accepted this is an herbal agents, natural agents, particularly as an antibacterial agent. So when we think of cleaning and disinfection in this modern era, we are mostly dealing with sodium hypochlorite, EDTA, chlorhexidine, MTAD. This is not like that these are bad solutions or this need to be completely replaced, but this is just or an sensitization where we can minimize their use, or sometimes we can use it in combination rather than completely replacing them at this stage. This is a very important study in which they have, in this descriptive study, they have studied the endodontic malpractice cases, and they observed that there is marked increase in accidents related to the use of sodium hypochlorite and calcium hydroxide. So of those they quoted, they reported that 65% of the accidents can be avoidable, and these two are contributing almost 7.1% of the accidents. Their application calls for extreme caution to avoid harmful and potentially lifelong consequences of substance spreading into the tissues outside the root canals. So when we think of these herbs as an irrigants or in endodontics, when I first time had done my PubMed search, it was found that herbal endodontics, if I found 285 articles, and of that for last 5 years, it was almost 200. So in these last 5 years, there is gaining trend towards the use of herbal irrigants. And now when we see the evidence, again, I found that sodium hypochlorite as an irrigant, there were almost more than 7,000 articles for that. Whereas for herbs, it was merely below 100. And that too for different types of herbal irrigants. So it is not like that there is no replacement or there are no other alternatives. It is that we are somewhere lacking with the providing evidence to bring them as an irrigant. So this is an table where we can see different types of extracts, hydroalcoholic, methanolic extracts, and you can see that there is wide variety of microorganisms like E. faecalis, Priotilla. Again, they are very potent on the biofilms, and all these studies are again within a time period of 5 to 7 years. This was the one of the best studies, I can say, where that evaluated antimicrobial efficacy of herbal alternatives like Triphala and green tea polyphenols. So in this, though sodium hypochlorite was having excellent antibacterial activity against 3-week and 6-week biofilm, Triphala proved, Triphala, which is an combination of 3 drugs of equal 3 fruits, that is amla, bibitki, haritki, they proved to completely eradicate the biofilm in 3 weeks. So considering sodium hypochlorite a very caustic, non-specific agent whose action is not limited only to the necrotic tissue, can have deleterious effect on dentine, which can reduce the strength of the tooth structure. And hence, these herbal alternatives can, as a root canal irrigant, may prove advantageous as an irrigating solution. Again, this was an very important research. This was an in vitro, but it provided an insight of the neem. They have used different herbal irrigants as a final rinse. So initial protocol was completed with sodium hypochlorite and EDTA combination, and what is the effect on final rinse? So it was proved that neem was having an excellent property for against E. faecalis. Again, this in vivo study by Kaur et al. Showed there was a significant reduction in aerobic microbial load as well as anaerobic microbial load with neem. Now, as we all know that rubber dam is an obligation, not a choice. And particularly in this era of COVID, again, we cannot put an excuse for having rubber dam. But we have seen that almost in 100% of the cases, rubber dam is not used. And one of the survey has presented that there is an inadequate training of an operator, but nowadays we are working on that. And secondly, it was seen that there was less patient acceptance for putting a rubber dam. Of course, we have to convince the patient. And again, in this classification of key endodontic errors, rubber dam isolation and hypochlorites has been one of the key errors. Now, again, this is a very important research which was done by Dr. Pradhan of our department and Dr. Shenoy and our team. In this study, we have prepared an herbal sodium hypochlorite solution. The problem was patient's non-acceptance to the taste of the solution, since all the procedures were not under rubber dam, and the potent concentration of hypochlorite which was to be required, that was not there. So in this study, a herbal sodium hypochlorite solution was prepared using 24 gram of chlorinated lime, 17 gram of anhydrous sodium carbonate in 100 ml of distilled water, and that was centrifuged at 5000 rpm for 5 minutes, and that was filtered. And for the herbs, all lemongrass, mint, tulsi, these are having an potent antimicrobial activity against E. faecalis and most of the microorganisms, against the biofilm also. They were taken in equal proportions of 100 gram in 1000 ml of water by a procedure of decoction. And this freshly prepared hypochlorite was added, this herb was added to the freshly prepared hypochlorite in a proportion of 9:1. We have made different types of formulations, and of those 9:1 was found to be most suitable, having an pH of 5.9 to 6.1 and a chlorine content of 11.9 and 12. So the motto was to make these fresh herbal solutions at the institute level and introduce students for making these solutions and using them, so that we can attain more success in endodontic therapy. Again, this is one of the most important in vivo trial by Dr. Poddar sir, with 6% Morinda citrifolia, that is a noni plant. And again, here in this study, they have shown neem significantly reduced anaerobic bacteria. So they have tried Morinda citrifolia as well as sodium hypochlorite and neem. This is another very interesting study in this by Datta and Kundabala madam. Again, this is an in vivo trial, and this was the first kind of its study where they have used neem extract for the first time as a root canal irrigant. And the neem extract was an ethanolic extract, and it was used in combination with that of sodium hypochlorite. And here we can see that the anaerobic load with when it was used in conjunction with sodium hypochlorite was significantly lower as compared to that of sodium hypochlorite alone. Then coming to the smear layer, which is a great issue, and it was been proved that this neem extract can be considered as an efficient smear layer removal irrigant in apical third of the root canal. This is another very interesting study in that they have used sodium hypochlorite, EDTA, sodium hypochlorite and Triphala. Now in this study, Triphala was used with ultrasonic activation, and it was found, here can see the group 2 with sodium hypochlorite and EDTA, and this group 5, sodium hypochlorite and Triphala with ultrasonic activation had a better smear layer removal. Again, another very interesting study. These are all recent studies by Dr. Saha. It showed potency of two herbal solutions using WAVE1 and SAF, and it was shown that German camelloy extract was proved to be a potential irrigant in removing smear layer when it was used with when it was compared with EDTA. So considering these studies, we can say the extracts of neem, noni plant, Triphala, green tea polyphenols has a promising future. Again, Triphala has an potent antimicrobial efficacy against E. faecalis biofilm owing to the 3 different medicinal plants in equal proportion. That is a great drug which is there in Ayurveda and typically an Indian identity. And secondly, the combination of synthetic as well as herbal irrigant may prove beneficial. Now coming to intracanal medicaments, we all know in this modern era, most of the times we are now doing single visit endodontics. But with these advances also, there are some situations where we cannot do single visit endodontics in all of the cases. And we have no choice to put an intracanal medicament as an intercanal inter-appointment dressing to prevent reinfection of root canal system. We are having different agents. Of those, most importantly, we are dealing with calcium hydroxide. But while dealing with calcium hydroxide, as we have seen in earlier report also, it has to be a specialized skill while handling and proper placement of calcium hydroxide in the canals, plus removing is challenging. Almost it is not 100% effective against E. faecalis and Candida species, and dentin can inactivate its antibacterial activity, and it may lead to weakening of root dentin by 23 to 43.9%. Here is an we are trying different types of extracts which are effective against Candida, S. mutans, Pseudomonas. Again, these are very recent studies itself. Now coming herbs as vehicles with calcium hydroxide. So to improve the potency of calcium hydroxide, vehicles were added, and mostly aqueous vehicles were proved to be benefited. So in this study, ashwagandha extract and papaya extract, they were proved to maintain the alkaline medium for more than 168 hours. Again, in this study, calcium hydroxide plus aloe vera, when used as an vehicle, it proved to sustain alkaline medium for more than 168 hours. Again, this study showed the potency of neem, and they recommended that neem can be used as an intracanal medicament. This is, I'm very thankful to Varat Pandey madam. She has shared an research in vivo clinical trial they have done in their department. The article is in press, and they have evaluated the antimicrobial efficacy of turmeric and neem and calcium hydroxide as intracanal medicament, and they have done a study in almost 90 patients, and they found that there was significant reduction of aerobic as well as anaerobic bacteria with neem as contrary to calcium hydroxide. So evidence is neem can be used as an intracanal medicament or as a vehicle with calcium hydroxide, and different types of vehicles, herbal vehicles can be used with calcium hydroxide. Now coming to the GP disinfection. In this, again, COVID era, we are looking for everything to be sterile and decontaminated. GP is playing a role in initiating biofilm infections due to colony of cocci, and it is related to the refractory periapical pathosis in cases of excessive root canal filling showing periapical lesion. So disinfection of endodontic materials is an integral part of the infection control process. And as we all know, the packaging of the gutta percha, what is been available, has made difficult to maintain the aseptic chain throughout the clinical storage. Plus, the nosocomial infections may affect the outcome of root canal treatment, particularly in conditions with limited bacterial load. So, what can be the solution? Because we need to have a solution that facilitates us to perform chairside disinfection of gutta percha. Earlier, the chemicals that are tried, sodium hypochlorite, glutaraldehyde, and others, they have particularly sodium hypochlorite has proved to be potent, but there are some issues regarding changes in surface characterization of GP. Hence, to address this issue, we have formulated, we have done an research where herbal extracts of neem and turmeric we have tried, and in this study we have used neem bark extract, and we found that it was equally effective as 5.25% sodium hypochlorite that can disinfect the GP in a minute, and hence we can say that it can hold a promising future. In another study, for the same disinfection of gutta percha cones, we have tried various essential oils of lemongrass, basil oil, and some tea extracts, and we found that they can be an eco-friendly and cost-effective and a promising tool for rapid chairside disinfection before obturation. In this, we have formulated one equipment patent also. So this is a very interesting story. We were doing all sorts of research, but this was the incidence when we started. Madam had an idea, and we planted almost 50 different varieties of herbs that are there in our region, particularly in central India, that should be known to our budding dentist. So this was taken, it was in 2013, and it was taken by a noted social media, and this herbal garden provides an educational tool for the students also. They get motivated and they are getting up with new ideas. So the evidence is GP is an indispensable gold standard material of endodontic armamentarium. Modifications in GP still continues with respect to its disinfection protocol and development in material characteristic to ensure optimal seal and predictable success in endodontic therapy. Now sealers, again to enhance its antibacterial activity, this hinokitol is was added. Now again, this is on an experimental basis. It has proved to have an active ability of odontoblast differentiation of HDPCs, and they have claimed that it might be clinically effective by having suitable setting time and solubility also. But this is still in experimental phases. Now coming to the solvents. Long back, we were again in our post-graduation days, we come across xylene that was used that time, then chloroform. But we ourselves have seen different types of accidents and their potential hazards. Now we are having different types of oils, the grapefruit oil, tangerine, lime, lemon oils, eucalyptus oil, and orange oil. Now we can say, here are the studies, all these are the recent studies, and this is again a very important and interesting study by Dr. Gaurav. This orange oil has been proved to be effective in removing conventional GP as well as resin coated gutta percha. So now when we take a poll, this is the area where we're getting commercial preparations of orange oil, and almost most of the dentists now have replaced the practice of using xylene to the orange oil. So it is not like that we are not at all using any drug. Then storage media, we have seen the potent effect of coconut water, aloe vera gel. Uh, these are reported to maintain the viability of the PDL cells even after the extraoral dry time of 45 minutes. And if we place the avul's tooth for 45 minutes, then they predict that it is a potent solution. So again, for pulp dentin repair also, there are different oils and here reported, but they are still at an experimental phases. Even for pulpotomy, 3 to 4 drugs were reported, but that too in a pediatric age group. But that was lacking and significant evidence to be used here. So what are the challenges? This is an iceberg concept. When we think of herb, we think it has relatively less side effects. Patients also think that has to be practiced. We also feel. So these are having less side effects, bio-friendly, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. But we have to take into consideration some drugs, they are having low toxicity also. So how we can modify their low toxicity and take the main effect of that drug. Then most importantly, standardization of drug. As in the previous slide, I have told that there are different variations of the same herb. For example, Tulsi, we are having 18 different types of strain. So all these strains will have an active component, different variations of the active component depending on the geographic location. So while studying, taking into consideration the use of drugs, it is very important. What is the percent of that active component in our area? And how is the collection process, right? From collecting the parts like leaves, then decontaminating them, then preparing their extracts. All these things are very, very important, and that will help in standardization of drugs. This is a really a challenging thing that we are not able to maintain the standardization, and that's why when we compare different types of studies, and it is very difficult to get similar types of result. So when considering herbal formulation, standardization is very, very important. And the product should be there, should easy for application compared to chemicals which we are using. Definitely they have a good shelf life. So if we are trying to use and formulate on our own at our institution level, then definitely we can improve its again shelf life, availability, and we can promote the chair side clinical applicability of these drugs. So considering all the literature, when I search for any case reports for herbs, I just found this only case report, which deals with a patient who was treated initially for emergency RC opening, root canal was open, but still patient was not getting relieved, and now patient was having an phobia, and they just tried a traditional Persian medicine, that is origami, as a decoction. And just with decoction, this abscess was drained and patient got relieved. This is not to think that in spite of doing so much of research and all, we are not getting practical solutions which we are not implementing. So just to show, I got 2 of these patients who were having an history of root canal treatment, and they were having bad experience regarding the test and the soreness that they experienced for a month, and they didn't want. So that time I told them that we don't have any thing right now as a commercial preparation. So they were quite learned, and this patient was there with periapical abscess, and fortunately it was a draining abscess. And here we have tried herbal irrigant of neem as an irrigant. Similarly, in this case, so this was the patient demanded, and then we tried with their consent. Now designing the herbal formulas. So it is not like that I have found that this herb is having a potent effect. I will use this. So if we design the herbal formulas in a correct way from its inception, just like a key herb that will be an emperor of the formula, which will provide a primary action to the formula, then supporting herb, which will have a synergistic action. And suppose the key herb is having some low toxicity or some adverse constituent, then a balancing herb can be an option to harmonize the action of the formula that will reduce the undesirable effect of that herb. The catalyst herb, it will activate the formula. So putting at least 2 herbs will make a formula depending on the type of herb which we choose. Here is an example of an indigenous herbal mouthwash, which was again from our area, and they have conducted, this is a very recent article. In this, they have used Triphala, anti-inflammatory, analgesic, antibacterial, inhibiting dental plaque. Then again, ginger was used to have a role as a remineralization for initial enamel lesions, analgesic, mint, and to mask the effect of garlic, lemon extract was used. So this is just an example if we are formulating any herb. So proper, first of all, in vitro trials, and then in vivo trials, randomized trials can be conducted. This is just a short general guidelines for the safety and toxicity evaluation of an Ayurvedic formulation. So the herbs which we are using in India, which are traditional, they come under Ayurvedic formulation. So if we are using such type of drugs, such type of herbs for our formulation, then it is required that they should go from the preparatory phase, drug developmental phases. Like neem. Neem has been used for many ages. So it is to be potent and proven to be safe. So we can execute clinical trial with proper literature search. So the take away home message, herbs are potential source with therapeutic value. Here I would like to add that herb is a gross term, but when we think of Ayurveda and Indian tradition, we can transform it into some Ayurvedic formulas which are more standardized, and we can certain the purity of the formula. Almost all studies which we have seen, most of them were in vitro. There may be very low toxic and good pharmacological activity, antibacterial activity, and inhibiting good biofilm formulation for many drugs. Again, extensive research both in vitro and in vivo is required. And most importantly, we can prepare fresh solutions. We can promote preparation of fresh solutions at institutional setups and get the clinical trials to re-establish their therapeutic benefits, either alone as a purely herbal formulation or in combination with the conventional therapies that are available. So this is just the Chinese, they with their traditional medicines. This is very recent article. This is still in press, and they have come up with different types of formulation of their traditional herbs that are helping for prevention and treatment of COVID-19. So we have a treasure of herbs. So my request is we should study nature, love nature, value. This is sort of just we were at Valley of Flowers, and this is one of the treasure for herbs. And the journey, we thought that this is the destination, but the journey is still ahead, and it would require a teamwork. I would like to thank Dr. Pratima Shinoy, my mentor, my guide, for supporting me for each and every and helping me in each and every of the research work. Then Dr. Manjusha Varatpande madam, again for her entire support during all my career. Dr. Taulare, an Ayurvedic expert, Dr. Mohit Shriya Sangam, and entire VSPM team. So I would thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It is a splendid, a great and informative lecture. I request to all the participants, please stay with us for another informative session. We will be taking the question answer session at the end of the second lecture. Put all your queries on the Facebook page Endocons VSPM Nagpur. Now I request Dr. Manjusha Varatpande ma'am to introduce our second speaker for today's session, Dr. Mohit Gunwal sir. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, as expected, it was a wonderful presentation by Dr. Chetna. It was very well studied, and now I may label her as a herbodontist. So switching over to the next presenter, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Mohit K. Gunwal. Currently, he is working as assistant professor at VSPM DCRC Nagpur and PG VSPM DCRC Nagpur. He is a PhD scholar, SPU University, Gujarat. He has 30 publications in PubMed National and International Journal. Presently, he has 6 ongoing research projects to his account. He has presented and won best paper at national conferences. At such a young age, he has been a faculty for the hands-on courses at PG convention at Pune, which was held in 2014. And he also has been a faculty as a guest speaker at many institutions. Just a brief introduction to Mohit's topic. As we all know, the aesthetic requirements in dentistry are always at its peak and also are being fulfilled by reconstructing and restoring teeth by using aesthetic dental materials, we all know. Now, though restorative materials have evolved to a level of that near to natural appearance, it is most of the times it can be achieved, but the lifelike feel and appearance is yet to achieve. This endeavor to achieve this, researches are being undertaken for all the biological restorations. So identifying the ideal restorative material in terms of enhanced clinical performance is the dire need of the contemporary restorative practice. At present, none of the available restorative material provides biomechanical properties which matches with that of the natural enamel and dentine. Thus, the concept of replacing missing or defective tooth substance with natural enamel or dentine, which we are going to listen from our young, talented Dr. Mohit Gunwal, the biological restorations can be the outlook of dentistry. Now, this current review by Mohit will provide an insight into the biological restorations and its clinical considerations. May I invite Dr. Mohit to present his scholarly presentation. Wishing you a very good luck. Thank you.
A very happy morning to all of you. And thank you so much, Varatpande ma'am, for giving such a nice introduction. And when it comes from your own teacher, it means a lot. And today I am going to talk about a concept that is biological restoration, which was incepted in the year of 1964 by Kovac, when the first use of cast post and a conventional cement for reattaching the anterior tooth segment. Now, this concept of biological restoration or say the fragment reattachment procedures are in the field for a very, very long time. But these are mostly the part of either academic setups or the in vitro researches. But the clinical applicability or the clinical application due to technical constraints is missing. So you must be wondering that why this topic as for the literature review. Now, all of this started in Europe 2019 when I conducted a survey that was to assess the knowledge, awareness, and perception of dental practitioners towards the natural tooth fragment reattachment procedures as the part of my PhD project. So the inference that I drew out of the study was that in spite of having knowledge about the fragment reattachment procedures, the clinicians, they were not performing it because either the fragment was unavailable or it was not in a proper form and shape to be reattached, or there was lack of clinical training. And there were some more concerns which I noticed in my study that the clinicians were concerned about the refracture because the bonding interface is really very and the cross contamination. So that was the thing that came into my mind about this presentation, that the agenda of this presentation is basically to create an awareness and acceptability towards the biological restorative procedures through this literature review. And also to address the concerns like the fragment availability, the fragment storage, and the concerns of biology, that is the cross contamination. So let's redefine the term first, biological versus biomimetic. So if I say that the biological restorations are biomimetic in nature, it holds true. But if I say that the biomimetic restorations are biological in nature, there is a catch. So what is biomimetics? Basically, biomimetics is synthesizing similar products by artificial mechanism which mimics natural tooth structure. So there is a word, there is a catch here, the artificial mechanisms. The materials are artificial, but they are mimicking natural tooth structure. Now, about the clinical applicability of biomimetics in dentistry, it ranges from pulp implantation to the gene therapy to injectable scaffolds to regenerative pulp dentine complex and so many things. And when I talk about the material aspects, the materials like glass ionomers, biodentines, ceramics, mineral trioxide aggregate, or resin-based composites, they all are basically the materials which are biomimetic in nature. So what is the myth versus reality? And the reality is that none of these materials are completely restoring the luster, surface texture, or the color of enamel, nor do they have the mechanical properties similar to enamel or dentine. Now, the main question that remains is that if we have these many complications, when I talk about biomimetic restoration, that they are near natural, so then why not to use natural enamel and dentine to replace the missing tooth structure? So in that case, the big concept is biological restoration. This term was basically coined by Santos and Bianse in year of 1991. And this basically stated that the biological restorations are the techniques consisting of bonding sterile dental fragments, either obtained from the patient or from the tooth banking system. Now, for the today's literature review, a detailed search was done on literature and the data was obtained. So I will be elaborating the procedures where we talk about biological restoration, the label of the biological restoration and procedures which come under it. Now, when I talk about biological restorative procedure, at a postgraduate level, most of us, we know that there are fragment reattachment procedures, there are dentine post systems, there are post-in core systems which are available. But I will add to your surprise that the clinical applicability of biological restorative procedures include class 3 defects, cervical abrasions, fragment reattachments using biopens, maybe class 2 inlays, 4th, 5th crowns, and veneers. So let's see individually. I will be talking about cases. So I will be showing some selected cases from literature which I thought worth mentioning for this presentation. So when I talk about the fragments or the fragment reattachment procedure, it is after the fracture. And the prevalence of these fracture injuries or these traumatic injuries is around 18 to 22% worldwide. And also there is like 42% of cases are just enamel dentine fractures. So if I talk about such situation, what are the clinical concerns that we have? So the clinical concerns that we have is aesthetics, the lack or the loss of the form and function, and there is a psychological trauma associated with it. So when I talk about that, what are the various treatment options available with, like what we can go ahead with. So in terms of the treatment options available, we have maybe the ceramic laminates or the full coverage restoration, where the challenge is for the clinician to match the restored tooth structure, and they're pretty expensive. And on the other hand, when I talk about composite resin restoration, so the difficulty in shade matching, plus the composite has a higher wear when compared to the structure, the enamel structure. So Anderson stated that a reattachment of the coronal fragment can be a very realistic approach in terms of achieving and predictable aesthetic results. The condition was that the fragment should be available so that it can be immediately reattached. So in the current case, there was a sterile fragment which was available and the fragment bonding procedures were done. So we can really appreciate that in this case, the natural bioaesthetics was maintained, it was cost effective, and it provided an immediate result to the patient so that the psychological trauma which is associated with such defects can be overcome. The only concern in such a treatment protocol is that the patient should be aware that the fragment has to be kept in the perfectly hydrated condition. Now, the next case that I'm showing is basically a subgingival fracture in an anterior tooth, where the basic clinical concerns includes aesthetics, form function, psychological trauma, and the most important, the placement of a subgingival restoration. Because any restorative material, if not accepted well to the periodontal apparatus, it might cause a lot of complication associated with it. So the important point is that in this case, after the fragment was removed, placing local anesthesia, and a fiber rebond was used. So either a fiber rebonds can be preferred because these are polyethylene fibers to reinforce the fragments, or the fiber post can be used to reinforce the segment. And you can see the natural aesthetics which was attained immediately. So the important point here is that the periodontal health was maintained because there is no artificial material. It is a well-polished, finished fragment which is there. And secondly, immediate and a natural aesthetics was attained. Now, this is a very, very interesting literature case that I came across with atypical mesiodistal fracture. Usually the fractures that we associate with central incisors are horizontal fractures which are occurring through enamel and dentine. So this mesiodistal fracture towards the incisal edge was really different that I have seen. So the case was with pulpal involvement. In such cases, the routine conventional treatment options that are available with us is either we go ahead with a crown lengthening procedure or a gingivectomy or the orthodontic traction so that we can see the fragment which is there. Ultimately, the post-in-core can also be one of the treatment options that we can consider. And if nothing works, the last option in the extreme one is go ahead with extraction and place an immediate implant. But the root canal was done by the operator and the fragments were bonded. And at the same time, an amazing natural aesthetics was obtained. So there was no need of orthodontic or a periodontal intervention in such a case, and a single visit functional aesthetic treatment was obtained with the minimal discomfort that was caused to the patient. Now, most of the clinicians, most of the practitioners, they think that the application of these fragment reattachment procedures can be done for the anterior tooth segments. So these coming cases, like few more cases I will show that will change your perception regarding the application of fragment reattachment procedures. Like when I see this case, a mesiodistal fracture in a premolar, the treatment options are again like we go ahead with orthodontic extrusion, we remove the fragment, we see the periodontal health, we go ahead with crown lengthening procedures, post-in course, maybe an extraction at the end of the day. but the operator chose to be really more conventional in terms of treatment options. So a banding was done using zinc phosphate externally. Internally, the composite resin was used to bond both the fragments. A root canal therapy was performed. After 15 days, the bands were removed and we can appreciate the health. And this is a 19-year follow-up of this case. So there was no need of orthodontic or a periodontal intervention, and a functional aesthetic result was obtained. One more thing which I would like to mention, that as the margins of the restorations are placed and established in a natural tooth structure, so there are less of gingival problems, and we do expect less of gingival problems because the fragment that is available with us is already well finished. It have a smooth surface, so there is no chance of irritation to the gingival tissue. So why not to be so conventional and provide a very biofunctional restorative procedure? Now, when I talk about restorative dentistry, one of the most complex, demanding, and a taxing situation is restoring and sustaining a class 2 restoration, where there are a lot of clinical concerns which we expect at the end of the day, and the clinical concerns like we need a biofunctional restoration. The routine restoration have a bigger interface of the cement and the restorative material and the tooth on one side. So the micro is one of the biggest complications. Aesthetics we do need. Form function, because the materializing has to be so meticulous that we form a proper contact and contour with it. And the materials that we are using, like if I talk about composite, it wears faster and it has a lot of complications due to polymerization shrinkage. And when I talk about ceramics, they are expensive, plus what the ceramic is doing is abrading a natural opposing tooth. So we really need to give consideration to all this when I talk about a class 2 inlay. And one of the prime things that if the class 2 restoration or the defect, it is towards the subgingival area, then again the restoration becomes really difficult. So I came across a very interesting case in literature, that we all know that we are in the era of milling machined restorations in terms of CAD cams and so many things. So a third molar was basically used in a sealing machine so that desired enamel and dentine can be obtained. An inlay was fabricated using an extractor tool. So it was stated that the inlay that was obtained with the enamel surface of the milled inlay was not damaged by the milling process, because these machines are basically used to milling the process, milling the things and materials like ceramics, which are already very brittle in nature. So it was a perfect inlay that was fabricated, and they stated one more important thing in this study, that this milled, the machine, sealing machine milled inlay was clinically to be similar in terms of a porcelain inlay. So why not to use such a restorative material as a future perspective and a gold standard in field of dentistry? Now there is one more case, and this case is basically done in the laboratory without use of these milling machines. So in this case, we can see a leaky amalgam restoration where the margin of amalgam is not proper, was experienced sensitivity and the other problems. So the restoration, the older restoration with amalgam was removed, the working cast was obtained, and an extracted tooth was processed in the laboratory to fit using the burrs, the diamond burrs that were available. So this processed restoration was constantly checked on the working cast and finally adapted on the tooth surface, and the final bonding was done. So I think we can really appreciate that we have a restoration with the concept of monoblock. When I talk about monoblock is something like two similar material bonded with a single interface. So these restorations, they provide that effect. At the same time, it provides the acceptability towards aesthetics, forms, function, and smooth finish surface. The only concern that can be here is that these are the natural tooth inlays or the natural tooth restoration. So they are subjected to routine wear and tear in the oral cavity, plus they might be facing the situation like caries altogether. So it is one of the things that we can need to consider. But when I talk about the pros and cons of this situation, we are in a win-win situation when I talk about these biological restorations. Now in my survey, I noticed one more thing, that most of the clinicians, they were really concerned about that what if we bond the fragment to the tooth? If the bonding is done, after which there might be a refracture, because the surface that is available for bonding is pretty less. So if conventionally this situation would have seen Then there were a lot of options earlier which were used, like prefabricated pins were considered, screwed into dental posts, cemented posts and pins were considered. But they have their own set of drawbacks, like dentinal crazings or maybe the fallout of restoration. So in where the biopins was used, an extracted tooth was used to take out fabricate the biopin in laboratories using the normal burrs that we have, so that we accept a restoration which is monoblock in nature. The reason being, there is enhanced retention using the biopins, the pins which are made up of dentine having similar property to that of the tooth structure. So the retention was increased, and you can really appreciate a restoration which is biocompatible, resilient, aesthetically favorable, because there is nothing underneath your restoration which is coming out and moving and passing through the translucency of enamel. And the fewer cracks and inexpensive nature, plus the bonding between the fragment, the tooth, and the biopins will definitely be extensively amazing, because we have similar material for the bonding interface. Now, class 3 defects. This is again very important for us to understand that when I came across the class 3 defects area, the clinical concerns were again the contact and contour, because we need an amazing matrixing system which mimics the perfect contour of the tooth. And the finishing polishing of the proximal surface is really difficult when I talk about a proximal restoration. Plus, if a proximal restoration is subgingival, maybe it is moving towards more towards the cementum area, then the gingival health is also at stake. Because any material which is either over contoured or which is under contoured will lead to a poor periodontal health and compromising the apparatus, the periodontal apparatus itself. So in the current case which I'm presenting, in this case the patient was already having the fragment. So patient preserved the fragment in a very definitive way. So the fragment attachment was evaluated, the bonding process was done, the initial finishing, polishing, and everything was done. And you can really appreciate the restoration with such a beautiful, lusher, lifelike appearance, because there is a minimal bonding interface. At the same time, the treatment that is provided is conservative, low cost, faster than direct restorative procedure, because here you are not supposed to sculpt a restoration. There is no sculpting which is needed. You have a fragment, you are supposed to bond it. There is predictable aesthetic results which we can attain. At the same time, the amount of gingival irritation will be the least, because there is no foreign object, bare minimal restorative interfaces there. Now, as Bharat Pandey ma'am mentioned during her introduction about the topic, that we are in the era of aesthetic dentistry. Aesthetics is all about aesthetics when patient is concerned with having a very beautiful smile. So veneer comes up as one of the most demanding treatment options. So when I talk about demanding treatment options, so the expensive options that I have is composites, where the complications like micro leakage, less wear as compared to the wear is a problem, resistance of the wear to the wear is less, and it often requires a repair or replacement. On the other hand, the option that is available is ceramic veneering, which is definitely expensive. We need 2 appointments, because 1 appointment we need preparation, after that we go for the laboratory process, and then the final milled restoration we achieve. Also, the amount of irreversible tooth removal is there associated with ceramic inlays. So when I talk an option of bonding a natural inlay, that can be really considered. So the tooth, in this case, the tooth preparation was done. After tooth preparation, an extracted teeth was used for the veneering, and it was adapted and evaluated on the working cast. After that, the bonding process was done. So you can really appreciate a lifelike restoration which is of low cost. Aesthetics is amazing. Superficial smoothness, we need not to finish polish much. Only the interface has to be finished polished. The tooth, natural tooth itself has such an amazing finished polished surface. And the cervical adaptation of the enamel, and at the end of the day, I say it's a biofunctional restoration, where the biological properties of tooth is there matching to the remaining amount of tooth structure. At the same time, it is functional in nature. It is providing the basic needs, that is the form, function, and aesthetic. Cervical abrasion is one of the trickiest areas when I talk about restorative procedures. And the reason being that, again, maintenance of a proper contact and contour is required. That is the basic need of restorative dentistry. The tooth, the cervical abrasions or these defects are basically generated because of the tooth flexion. So the modulus of elasticity of the restorative material should be in such a way that it matches that flexion, so that the debonding process is not being seen. So when I talk about the gold standard restorative materials, GIC and composites, still the debonding is one of the major concerns. So when debonding is a concern and at the same time gingival health is concerned, why not to use a natural tooth structure as a restorative material? We'll have a minimal bonding interface in terms of using a composite resin, maybe a flowable composite, and an amazing restorative material which will flex, which will modify, which will behave biomechanically in the cervical areas with aesthetic restorative results. Now, this is one more case. If I clinically see this case, the treatment options about this case would have been, most of the clinicians would have preferred going ahead with a root canal therapy post, and then after that placing a post system, then a crown over it, so that the longevity of the restorative procedures and the longevity of the tooth is increased. But if I say that we can provide a monoblock restoration, so in this case, the root canal therapy was done, extracted tooth was obtained, fitted on working cast as a 4th, 5th crown, and see the amazing aesthetic results without performing any kind of post and core therapy. Because the biological restorations, basically, the changes are not expected as we expect in the composite resin restorations. Plus, the amount of tooth structure that is compromised doing maybe the post and core procedure, maybe performing a full ceramic restoration, is also saved. At the same time, the cost effective. It's just an extracted tooth and a bonding interface. So the cost effective when compared to ceramics and post and core, and amazing results when I talk about ceramic resin restoration. So as I was talking about the post and core and the complications associated with post and core restoration, there is one more case which I got in literature. Actually, from year of 2010 to 2019, there were 14 research articles which I got about the post and core system, which talk about biological post or the dentine post and core system. So when I talk about post and core, there are the conventional options, like the conventional option we have, a cast metal post. So there is a higher modulus of elasticity when compared to dentine, increased concentration of stresses at tooth restoration interface, and a vertical fracture of the tooth. And when I talk about the more aesthetic option of the system, like the fiber post system, the modulus of elasticity when compared to dentine is less. So the risk of the debonding of the post is there. So if we face so many complications, the excess removal of tooth structure when we prepare a cast post, then there are chances of fracture, there are chances of debonding, then why not to use a restorative material which match and mimic the tooth structure? So the dentine post systems, they can provide a perfect adaptation to the root canal system. At the same time, they will not pose any kind of stress associated to the dentine, and they will have a similar biological and a biomechanical behavior of the as similar to the natural tooth structure. And this was a case where not only the dentine post was used, even the crown was fabricated using a natural extracted tooth, milled on the cast and adapted in the cast, and then bonding procedure was. Here I would like to state one more very important thing, that this literature article which I got, it stated that when we bond a biological post, like there is a biological post, there is cementing agent, and there is a dental structure to bond, so it forms the one sole single biomechanical system, and that one single sole biomechanical system is the monoblock. And I think that in dentistry, we are only looking for concepts like monoblock for sustainability, for enhanced treatment options, and for providing better results. Now, there are some more concerns which we really need to address when I talk about biological restorations, and one of them is fragment storage. So why fragment storage is that important? Fragment storage is important because it maintains the vitality and the original aesthetics. I'll tell you, if the dehydration process, if the fragment is not preserved well, there is a change in the color because there is a dentine dehydration associated with it. So if the color changes of the fragment, it is very difficult to attain a natural aesthetics. There is literature which states that even if we bond such a tooth structure, the original color can be achieved when there is a dehydration done. So a 30 to 40 minutes dehydration can be done before we bond the structure, and rest of the dehydration will occur in the oral cavity. But my statement is that why we want to take a chance? We need to protect and put the fragment and save the fragment in a way where it is perfectly hydrated. Plus, the hydration also affects the bond strength. So if we need a perfectly bonding restoration and a restoration which is having a lifelike appearance, then perfect storage can be considered. So there are a lot of literature about it, a lot of articles and a lot of studies when fragment storage can be thought about. So these are the materials which are available. But one of the important inference that is put forward is that the storage time of these bonded and extracted fragments should not be exceeding more than 3 to 4 weeks. Because if we really want to perform a biological restorative procedure, it is important that the storage in a proper way, plus the time limit of the storage should not exceed, because beyond this time of storage, there is definitely change in the mechanical properties. And I think that is one of the concerns. When I talk about biological restoration, and when I was doing this survey, there were a lot of people asked me about it. That what if the fragment is dehydrated? What if it is not stored well? Do you really encounter that the extracted tooth will have a similar property matching to the patient's tooth and dentition? There is a difference. I agree to it. But still, if a proper storage in a hydrated condition is done, there is very bare minimal change in the mechanical properties. So the time limit should not exceed more than 3-4 weeks. Now, to be honest, we are in the era of bonding, and it is purely on the operator's choice that what kind of bonding interface the operator want to use. Usually, most commonly, flowable resin composites are used, and the reason being why flowable resin composites are used, because they have less of modulus of elasticity is really better, so they can bond and it can have the flexion properties and the other properties to be considered. Literature also stated that the resin modified GICs can perform better in terms of bonding. So if I say the bonding interface, it is definitely critical interface. It has to be really amazing. But the era of bonding and the better material formulation has provided us with the ultimate bonding options. And these bonding options, they definitely increase the longevity, predictability, prognosis of such restorative materials to form a monoblock concept. Now, availability of fragments. So when I talk about availability, if the patient is getting the fragment, that is the best restorative alternative. But in every situation, it is not possible. Sometimes, if it's a road traffic accident, usually patient is in such a state that it is very difficult for patient to identify that my fragment is there or not. So in such a situation, when the fragment is not available, what we can consider is to set up a tooth banking system. Similar way, we have a blood bank or a bone bank, because only thing that we need to do is follow the ethical guidelines which are laid by the respected organizations in terms of transplant protocols. At the same time, when I talk about biological restorations, technically they do not have any kind of contraindications. The reason being that if we perform a good sterilization protocol, if we perform a perfect storage protocol, so what could be the contraindication? There is no absolute contraindication, except that if we are unable to find the kind of size, color, shape that we are looking for. And this problem can only be overcome if you really look forward and think about establishing a tooth banking system and providing a cheap alternative, a very cost-effective alternative to the patient in terms of a restorative rehabilitation. The biological concern and we are in the era of COVID. And everyone is really concerned about the biological aspect, because the transmissions of the infection, and so much about the cross-contamination process. So when I talk about biological restorations, definitely there is a concern because we are using an extracted tool. But there are two very important things. First, the dentine is non-vascular in nature. So the transmission process is pretty negligible. And second thing, there is a bonding interface which is covering the entire surface, where the bonding between the tooth fragment and the natural dentition or the natural dentine enamel is there. So in that case, the transmittability or the chances of transmissions are bare minimum. One more important aspect is the sterilization. The effective sterilizing methods that are available with us, they can really eliminate the concern which is there for the cross-contamination. So the literature states that the gamma radiations are the best. But these methods of gamma radiation process, they're very expensive. We do have the systems like Baba Atomic Center in Bombay, where these gamma radiations and all the systems are available. They're very expensive. We cannot go it unless we have a very bigger setup where we can think about equipping these kind of systems with us. So the preferred and most used method available is autoclave. When we have 121 degrees Celsius and 15 psi measure, and we talk about 15-20 minutes of sterilization and eliminating all the concerns regarding the cross-contamination. See, when I talk about patient's acceptability, if I tell my patient that I'm placing somebody else's tooth in your oral cavity, I know it is very difficult for acceptance. But as the clinicians, if we try to convince our patients regarding the biological restoration, stating we are following a very rigorous process of autoclaving, and there is definitely therefore no risk of contamination, and this can be one of the best alternatives. So it is on the clinician to promote such a restorative procedure which can be applied to masses and which will provide a life-like restorative material to the patient. So that can be really given a consideration for. Now the evidence of success, there is a great deal of success which has been achieved in terms of biological restoration, and that is up to 19 years. One of the cases that I got was 19-year success in a proximal restoration. So the evidence of success is really great, but one thing that I would like to mention, that this topic is basically lacking some kind of clinical appraisal. So the randomized controlled clinical trials are really needed, because there are a lot of in vivo, there are a lot of in vitro studies, but less of in vivo research. So we really need a lot of in vivo research in terms to attain and to think about the predictability and the success of this treatment protocol. I would also like to mention, and it's such a proud feeling, in that my department of conservative dentistry and endodontics in VSPM Dental College, we are practicing these restorative procedures and protocols since the year of 2010, and now the success story is 10 years long. So a few more slides to go. So the last is I'll talk about limitations and the possible solutions also to the limitations. So we need a tooth banking system, that is for sure. Next is the acceptability by patient. So as a clinician, I convince my patient that I am following an effective sterilization protocol, and I tell about the pros and cons of this treatment, then it can be overcome. Next is definitely the selection of the extracted tooth during sectioning. The preparation can be very difficult, so needs very skilled methods. And like I mentioned in my literature appraisal, that we have machines like CLA or the CAD/CAM process, so we can really think about such restoration processed by CAD/CAMs, so that this can be overcome. Tooth banking system, as I mentioned, this will provide for the proper selection of size, shape, color, absence of crack, and this limitation of biological restoration can also be overcome. Definitely, there's a lot of time required for adaptation, because you really need to be very skilled, because a perfectly fitting restoration will provide you with the needed longevity and needed acceptability for the restorative process. And definitely at the end, I will say that it's the time for vocal for local, because this is the current trend which is running. So how can we really think about the process? We need to create awareness among patients, like if they can store the fragment, or if they can want to select the biological restorative process as one of the choice for the treatments. Establishing a tooth banking system. When I talk about a country like India, we do have stem cell banking, the dental stem cell banking, and there are a lot of private organizations doing it. But in terms of providing a treatment protocol to the patient and treatment alternative to the patient, the establishing of a tooth banking system is really needed. And definitely the training programs, because at the undergraduate curriculum, the biological restoration is really needed to be reinforced and taught in reinforced and included. Whereas in the PG curriculum, we do have this, and because of that, we learn and we really appreciate such kind of a treatment procedure. So thank you so much, and I would definitely at the end would like to recognize and thank Dr. Pratima Shenoy, the Head Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics, to give me the opportunity to be part of this amazing Pan-India Festival of Endodontics. My PhD guide, Dr. Kamal Dasar, for being so supportive and for always encouraging me to take up this topic of biological restoration as my PhD work also. And to the amazing faculty members of the Department of Conservative and Endodontics, because they have been really the source of support and ever encouraging and motivating. So thank you so much, and I'm really open for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for a great and elaborative lecture. It is really a great presentation. Dr. Chetanamakade ma'am and Dr. Mohit. It has given us a detailed insight about the concept of herbal endodontic and biological restoration. A truly informative session. Now, I request our moderator, Dr. Vandusha Varatpande ma'am, to take up the queries from the participant and proceed for the question answer session. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, Mohit, it was indeed a wonderful presentation, because in this era of pandemic, now both your presentation and Dr. Chetna's presentation has gone to a most near natural presentations and giving a very good message to the mankind. And we are going back to our roots, trying to implement in the society and as an endodontist for a patient's healing. So it was really wonderful. I'm sure all the viewers must have been benefited by today's most natural way and the most effective presentations by two of our youngsters. So I must congratulate Dr. Mohit Gunwal and Dr. ChetanaMakade for a wonderful presentations, and I must appreciate. Thank you so much. Even, there were many queries, and now also there are many question and answers. But both of you, your literature search and the way you have presented, so most of the viewers' queries are all answered. Only, but we can take one or two questions. So in that way, because I had also many queries in my mind when I started to listen to Mohit's presentations, but he has been so effectively managed all answers my queries. Okay. So, but one, because it's a starting with you, your question first, you have answered about the limitations and the conditions. I mean, there are very few.
Yes.
Okay, but just can you elaborate, as one question is asked about the types of biological restorations?
Ma'am, there are the concern, the clinic, when I talk about the clinical aspect of biological restorations, when I talk about the types of biological restoration, so we can attain the restorative procedure, we can perform restorative procedures by using the patient's own tissue first.
Yeah.
Secondly, if a tooth banking system is available, similar like we use a bone graft. So we have allogenic and autogenic bone graft. So similar way we can have an allogenic and autogenic biological restorations.
Okay.
And for that, the establishing a tooth banking system is one of the most preferred and the best way of doing.
Okay. So nice.
Thank
so
you.
I think there are two types, no? Autogenous bonding and a homogeneous bonding.
Exactly.
So these are two types of biologic restorations,
Yes.
and which you have properly answered the query. And one more question I'll take for you. There's a question from Dr. Vashni Solomon, and she would like to ask you how to store the extracted tooth fragment, and do these milled structures lose their mechanical properties in the long run?
Ma'am, when I talk about the storage is really important protocol. The reason being, first, if it is a dehydrated fragment, then all the mechanical properties are compromised, including the aesthetic is compromised. There is an absolute and appreciable change of shape. So storage is really important, and there are multiple options which are available. So when I think about very near to public option of storage of extracted teeth, it can be milk. Because saliva can cause contamination. Saliva has its own microbial contamination, so saliva can cause contamination. So I can use milk. If nothing is available, then even a properly, proper storage in tap water can also be done, because there is literature which stated that if nothing is available, please store it at least in water if the saline is not available. So I will say, like in the situations like lockdown when milk is not available, So at least a filtered water can be preferred to use and to store such kind of fragments.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So let me shift it to Dr. Chetanamakade. So we can take only 1 or 2 questions because there is a time constraint also. And that's what I want to say, that all the presentations were so good that most of the queries are already been solved. So the question for Chetna ma'am is, this is from Dr. Mahindra Jain. And he wants to ask you, is any commercial herbal irrigant or intracanal medicament available in market for the use?
No, madam. In the lecture itself, I have highlighted that till date, no such is available. Only thing is orange oil that is available for as a GP solvent.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And one more question from the viewers is there any difference between the herbal, the natural, or the Ayurvedic plants or the Ayurvedic medicines?
This is very nice question. And when I started with this project, I was having an idea, natural, herbal, all, but it is not like that. Natural is all natural. It is plants, minerals, and but in a natural form. Herbal, like we are preparing kadhas, my kadha preparation will be having the same ingredient, but it will have difference. So those are herbal preparation that are not standardized. So my concern is when there was a slide of India and Ayurveda. Ayurveda is concerned with more standardized and assured purity products, which we can prepare, which we can make, and then we can conduct trials and we can market it also. So this Ayurvedic, it contains herbals may contain chemical as a preservative, and herbal does not contain Ayurveda product, but Ayurveda is a gross term. It includes herbal products as well as some plant products, metals, and as I have told, with some low toxicity, some herbs are having low toxic beneficial properties. So to combat, we have to standardize those formulations, and those guidelines are being given in API and samhitas, various samhitas. We can take those guidelines and make our formulations standardized for use, and thus we can make these preparations available commercially. That's why orange wood oil is usually a single oil, and it doesn't have any other thing. But when we come to as an irrigant or as a medicament, we need to think of various aspects, and that we need to formulate a standardized product with good shelf life, and definitely it will be an economical alternative that will be given to the patient with less or no of the side effects.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Chetna. It's a very well answered question from you. And again, I feel all the viewers are benefited by today's both of you lectures. And with this, I think there are no questions anymore. So I am thankful to Dr. Pratima's entire VSPM team for giving me an opportunity to be a moderator for this wonderful session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ankita. Over to you.
Thank you once again to our dynamic speaker for today's session, Dr. ChetanaMakade ma'am and Dr. Mohitgunwal sir. Our moderator for today's session, Dr. Manjusha Varadpande ma'am, for becoming a part of this event and making it a success. On behalf of Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation to our speaker, Dr. ChetanaMakade ma'am.
Thank you, Ankita.
And Dr. Mohitgunwal sir. And also to our moderator for today's session, Dr. Manjusha Varadpande ma'am. It's kind request to you all, please stay with us for a few more minutes. We are
Thank you.
also conducting a mask kit selfie with mask contest. So kindly send your entries for the same before 29th of July. As on popular demand, we have extended the date and details are on the screen. These are some few entries. So send your unique selfie with the innovative ideas. Apart from academic activities, we wish to highlight those individuals in our specialty who have enriched their lives with other co-curricular activities. We as a specialty have a constellation of endostar in our galaxy. Let's have a look at one of them. Today, we have our endostar, Dr. Nidhi Dev. Dr. Nidhi Dev completed BDS in 2017 from D.Y. Patil Dental College, Pune. Currently, she is pursuing post-graduation degree in conservative dentistry and endodontic in Bharati Vidyapit Dental College, Pune. She got a scholarship for her ICMR project. She has been learning classical music since the age of 5 and had graduated in a classical music, that is Sangeet Visharad. She got various awards in academic and in singing and also won prize for paper presentation in national conferences. She loves to read, write poems, blogging, and loves to travel. Also loves to do a social work. Let's have a look on her extracurricular achievements. Congratulations, Dr. Nidhi, for being a endostar. Now at the end, I request Dr. Vandana Kokne ma'am to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ankita. On behalf of the Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics, VSPM Dental College, Nagpur, I would like to propose my sincere thanks to today's speaker, Dr. ChetanaMakade and Dr. Mohitgunwal, for their excellent lecture. Thank you very much, Dr. Chetna. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohit. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to today's moderator, Dr. Manjusha Varadpande Madam. She has taken her valuable time and graced this session. Thank you very much, Dr. Manjusha Varadpande Madam. And big thank you to all the participants who have joined from different parts of the country. So here we would like to end our today's session. See you on Monday, 27th July with the new session, with the new topic. Thank you very much. Thank you all.